We're in Cannon Hill Common, South London, to meet two exotic rescue pets. Now, most people think of exotic pets as lions and tigers, but today I'm here to meet two rescued macaws.
Both of these guys were actually stuck in homes from people who bought them years ago when they were babies, thinking they'd be gorgeous, fun, exciting pets, and then kind of realized that they aren't in any way. They're a lot of work, very messy, very noisy, and quite a lot to keep. So they ended up rehoming them both. Mikey was stuck in a cage in a family who had just no real time for him. We found him, thought we'll do our best to give him a good home, I guess, and we didn't really even know what we were doing, but learnt over time. And Mia, she was stuck in a cage, all her wings were clipped off at that point, and she had a terrible, terrible start to life, but she took a lot of time, but she's now fully kind of rehabilitated and soaring the skies with him.
They're so different to other animals, and like Mia took 2 days to get comfortable with me, which I was even surprised by, but Mikey took about a month with him and about 3 months with me. But each bird is different depending on their history or, you know, on the background of what they're used to. They might hate certain looking people, certain looking colours. So it is always a big question mark with each bird, but if you tend to place them in your surroundings and carry on with your day-to-day activities, they tend to prefer that rather than sort of super close interaction.
They usually pick one person too. For example, Mikey's picked me, but he's totally fine with Claire. Where Mia, on the other hand, we've had her a few years now, and she's only just over the last few months started getting used to me.
How much time of your life is spent looking after these two birds?
Crazy amounts of time goes into these guys. We've now even altered our work schedules, which we've done for a while, where these guys aren't at home alone. Maybe I think one day a week, I think,
like
where we're out for
day,
a working day. But they got a big aviary. There's loads of foraging toys and stuff like that. But for the rest of the time, there's usually one of us home. It is quite exhausting having them both out the whole day. I mean, they're not, you know, the best behaved birds all the time. Like right now, they've been great, but sometimes they're ridiculously loud and they just want to bite stuff and rip stuff up and just be complete nightmares. So we still encourage them to have their time in their aviary alone so they can preen and hang out and chill, but they have taken a huge portion of our lives, but we actually thoroughly enjoy it at the same time, as much work as it is.
It's a lot of work, a lot of stress, a lot of noise, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
In regards to other people even thinking about getting a bird like this, firstly I'd say always rehome, because there is a ridiculous amount of people who watch our channel and think, oh, this is great, I'm going to go buy a bird. And that's what we absolutely hate about making content, for a start, that we are inspiring people to get these birds, which we never wanted to do, and we still you know, do our best
to adopt them.
Push to, if you even think you're ready to adopt over buying a baby, because so many people we know went out, bought babies, and then literally within the first year or two they get rehomed. And birds are the most rehomed pet in the world. And what I do usually say is, if you have a kid, imagine that child at the age of about 3 years old, but forever. Like that mentality, that kind of brain capacity, that emotional level. Because if they're angry, they're gonna bite and it's gonna hurt.
How much, if you don't mind me asking, do you have to spend on vet bills and food and, you know, just a general day-to-day care?
So, I mean, I think once you're set up, it's not crazy. I mean, setting them up initially, I mean, aviaries alone, you know, depending on how big you're going, but they're going to cost you a minimum grand, a couple of grand, depending on how big you want to go. Vet bills are absolutely crazy. We had, if there's anything serious that are wrong with them, where they need, you know, MRIs or overnight care or X-rays or anything like that, you're looking upwards of 800-900 quid.
That's low, isn't it?
Toys alone, I mean, we're quite fortunate because of our social media presence. We don't really pay for too many toys anymore, which is great. But when we used to, what, £100 a month, and that's, you know, forever.
I have learned recently over lockdown to be creative and make loads of toys.
Making toys is the easiest thing as well.
And they prefer the toys I make, and it's so we try to. I actually take all the toys out and sometimes just put them in completely different places, and foraging toys, because they need to forage in the wilds. That's how they look for food, and they really enjoy sort of looking for food.
They love to
toys.
work for food, so we've really started getting into foraging toys. We got into it a little while ago, where it's not like a toy. For example, we just take a tree branch, drill a hole in it. We wouldn't just put nuts in it. We'd pack it with other stuff as well,
Yeah.
you know, so they really have to dig and work. And
yeah.
we're doing our best to kind of, you know,
Yeah.
give them a similar environment to what they would in the wild. I mean, that's obviously never possible, but if they have to kind of, you know, work and hunt for their food, they're mentally stimulated, they're mentally engaged, they're not going to be
Yeah.
bored, because the moment you have a bird sitting in a cage with their food given to them with their wings plucked and they just do nothing, then they're going to start plucking, their muscles are going to die, there's
Yeah.
going to be severe depression problems, and like that's what a crazy amount of birds all over the world have, which is really, really sad.
So blue and gold macaws, they're from South America, found away from Panama all the way down to Paraguay. Now these beautiful birds are not endangered at the moment with their vast range, although populations are declining in Paraguay, and luckily some populations have been reintroduced into Trinidad. Now even though these birds are not endangered, unfortunately a lot of their cousins are. Various different macaws and parrots are now going extinct, with some extinct in the wild. They have many different factors which causing this decline, from habitat destruction, climate change, and unfortunately the exotic pet trade. A lot of these birds are captured in the wild in South America. They're kept in tiny little cages, cramped together, and they're shipped to America and Europe, and only 1 in 20 unfortunately only survive the journey. And when people get these birds, they can live for up to 80 years. They're highly intelligent, they can be highly destructive, they cost a lot of money, and unfortunately a lot of them end up having to be rehomed. Luckily, sometimes they go to a nice rehome where they can get flown and lots of love and care. If this is something you really want to consider, do pay attention to the next part. We've seen them fly and it is pretty amazing to see. How did you get them to do that? And if people wanted to do that with their birds, what would you tell them to do?
So, free flight is something we didn't even know existed until about 1.5 years of having Mikey. And we went and saw this, and we were just absolutely blown away by the sight of this. And these people weren't professional trainers, they just started doing it 1 year ago kind of thing. So we were like, if they can do it, we can do it. So started going through the steps. I mean, I think there's about 20 hours of actual knowledge that you need to absorb very quickly to do it correctly, so your bird is flying and flying safely. That's the main thing. And with Mikey, he took 4.5 months. With Mia, she took just over 10 months because her wings were clipped. But I think if anyone does get birds, especially macaws or larger parrots anyway, which are slightly easier to free fly, it's honestly something you 100% should look into, because they're so much more calm if they are flying for a start. I guess it's the same thing as exercising a dog or taking a child to a park for a day. There's loads of trainers around the world, and I would always recommend finding a professional trainer or a mentor. There's trainers everywhere. Most of them do online courses, but you can get in-person trainers or finding mentors, and free flight's growing like crazy. 2 years ago, three years ago, there was us and maybe 3 or 4 others we knew of in the country. Now there's about 50.
Become a real social event.
Yeah, I think we do it now more for the people than the birds. Like the birds love hanging out in the sky and flying, but just kind
Yeah,
of
it's just
getting
such a
together
nice
with 30, 40
community.
people, it's
And seeing them all together is something incredible. It's heavenly almost.
The thing is, we don't think everyone should free fly anyway. It's not like we're saying if you don't free fly, you're a bad bird owner or anything like that. Like, this is what they naturally would do, and they're flock birds by nature. So with us being their flock, they don't want to leave our side, and they always get a little reward for returning nicely and doing tricks, and that's just positive reinforcement, which is what these birds react to. We'd never ever fly them hungry or anything. It's completely different to like falconry and stuff.
For somebody now who's sitting at home watching this, considering to buy the bird, what would you give them as advice right now? Would you say don't do it?
I usually tell people, are you ready to have a child or another child? Because that's the kind of way your life will change if you are going to give these birds the best life you possibly can. Do you have the space? Are you happy to put up with that noise forever? Are you happy cleaning 5-6 times a day forever? Do you have disposable income, which you don't mind just, throwing if anything happens, or if they need toys,
like if
or
they need sudden vet care, or like there's so much to...
It's a commitment I hate seeing taken lightly, and I hate being rude, but a lot of kids message us a lot of the time, 12, 13-year-old, 14-year-old kids, and they're like, oh, I'm convincing my mum to get me a bird. And I'll literally just say, that's the worst decision ever. Like, what do you plan to do? And you do have no idea where the next 10 years of your life is taking you.
Yeah.
How are you ever going to move out of your home? Like, do you
Yeah.
not have any travel plans or ambitions or career goals or any sort? I don't encourage
Because the
kids to
likely
have
chance
these ever.
is
Yeah.
that 8 out of 10 of those kids
Yeah.
will get given up. More
Yeah.
birds get bred, and the cycle continues. So it's
These aren't kind of phases you go through. And the worst thing is, we did impulse buy. We literally did
Yeah.
no research, and we were lucky enough to have, well, after we made that one video which took off on YouTube, we had all these bird people message us saying, you guys are screwing everything up, you're doing everything wrong, here's how to do it right. And that's why we started looking into proper bird care. Now we love learning how to give these guys a better life day by day. Things are always changing.
Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add at all?
I mean, don't ever clip your bird's wings.
oh yes, don't do that, please.
If you want
So
an
many
animal that
alternative
doesn't
solutions.
fly, yeah, there's dogs, cats, fish, there's a lot.